Okay, so this one is about the nature of pledging. And pledging is an interesting one. There are legal definitions for what a pledge is that can be used as a security and things like that, like a promise to pay. But you would provide collateral in that situation. But I want to talk about the nature of pledging in terms of the essence of the word, which means a solemn promise or undertaking. And, most of us are aware of pledging. In New Zealand, we used to have a thing called telethon, and it was a television charity event where you would phone in and make a pledge. And that pledge was a promise to make a donation. And that really is the essence of what I'm talking about here. So I also want to talk about pledging in the context of the evolution of collaborative gifting into being facilitated by newer technologies such as blockchain and smart contracts or NFTs, and the tokenization of a pledge. So without getting too complex, I'm just going to share, first of all, the essence of a pledge. It is a solemn promise or undertaking. And so in a collaborative gifting organization, it's based upon asking. So if you are the founder or you are the custodian of an idea or concept, and you are creating the blueprint for that organization, meaning the DNA, so it requires collaborator one is a web developer with X experience and so skills. They have this much capability, they have this much capacity. And so what you're doing is you're inviting someone to pledge their gifts. And so if someone, so if you imagine a scenario where this project is on a website, it would be the Morpheus website in this scenario, the website I've developed the platform I've developed to facilitate collaborative gifting. And so you have the blueprint of all the collaborators required with the unique alchemy of gifts and skills and abilities and resources required, with a 13-month plan on how that project can become a standalone business or organization, if it's community-based, if it's not for profit. But I'm talking about, building a standalone commercial venture using collaborative gifting. So the pledge comes in where you submit the blueprint. You say, these are the expertise, skills and resources required. And someone who's inspired by your vision and has a passion to use their gifts and can see that there's a match, they can see that there's the potential for collaboration, then they actually pledge their gifts to the project. And that pledge is a promise to donate their gifts. And so in unison with Morpheus, I've developed another e-commerce platform called Powerhouse, which is designed to facilitate collaborative e-commerce as well as collaborative gifting. And so in this scenario, Powerhouse has actually provided a free e-commerce website for people that enables them to create products and services that are available on the Collaborator Marketplace. And what they do is they can leave a link to the gift that they may be selling on the marketplace, or that they may provide as a service and receive money for it, if they're a sole trader or if they're a freelancer. And what they do is they pledge that gift to you. They leave a link to that product or service, and you can see that they're pledging a gift. As a web developer, you can see the expertise and skills they've got there, and you can see the rough value of what they're selling that for now. And they're pledging that as a gift. So it's you can see the whole ethos of this is about asking. Asking it is given, and gifts are pledged, and people submit a promise to donate. And here's the thing, here's why it is obligation free, is because promises can be broken. People's circumstances can change. You can authentically in this moment express an authentic desire to give of yourself to something. In this moment, there is nothing more compelling to me than gifting my gifts to contribute towards collaborating on this project. But you could, tomorrow another project may come along, and you're so lit up by this new project that it's now becoming a real point of tension that you've pledged to collaborate on the previous project. And so in this scenario, you're free to break that promise. And so a pledge is an expression of intent. You are intending to gift of yourself to something based on that now moment. Understanding that in another now moment, you may be even more inspired to collaborate on another project, and it needs your energy right now, and you are free to do that. Now, the ideal scenario is that if your pledge has been accepted, someone's said, I would love to receive your gift to collaborate on this project, then the ideal scenario is you go to them and you say, hey, there's another project. I know I've pledged to gift my skills to this project, but this one I'm totally inspired by, and with collaboration, you're always searching for a how can we. And so you say, and you always begin with revealing your ideal scenario, what it is you're truly intending to achieve. And then you say, how can we? And that leaves it open for collaboration to say, how can we facilitate my transition to this new project, as well as ask for someone else to pledge their gifts to replace me as a collaborator on this project. And so pledging is purely that, an expression of intent to donate your gifts to a collaborative project. And so hopefully that makes sense. It's pretty straightforward. And this is the ideal way for people who are the custodians of a vision, or who are the founders of a collaborative project. It's the ideal way for them to begin, having a starting point for the value of someone's gift. If it's something, like me, for example, I'm building an e-commerce platform, and I'm not a developer or a coder, and so the project needs people with specialty skills and expertise that I've never even heard of, and I have no clue what they're worth. And so, a pledge, when someone can share a link to a service that already exists on an e-commerce website, they may have a profile on a website page that has their that's like an electronic CV. You can see their expertise and skills. But if they can point you to a link to an e-commerce product on an e-commerce marketplace, ideally the powerhouse e-commerce marketplace, where there is a list of collaborators, people who are willing to collaborate on projects, and an estimated value of what that service is worth. And so pledging enables the starting point of, what is the rough value of the overall contribution of all the collaborators on this project, and therefore what is the revenue number that we really want to be hitting, so that we can begin appreciating all of our collaborators. And so in context of the evolution of the gifting economy, or a gifting-based organization. Now, blockchain, I'm not going to go deeply into blockchain, but it is absolute. We've built everything that we're working on based upon evolving into blockchain technology, because the ultimate vision for the Powerhouse collaborative e-commerce platform is for it to become an NFT marketplace. Now, an NFT, you may have heard this. It's a common term for, well, it's a hot topic in the world of blockchain. And what people really don't understand about an NFT is that it's basically just a smart contract. And what the real potential of a smart contract is that you can imbue your intent into that contract. And so you can actually imbue a pledge into a contract, and what we would call that tokenization. And so what you're actually doing is you're establishing a currency based upon the value of a pledge. So in the same way that money exists in the economy as the unrealized potential of something. You know, if you've got money in the bank, it's like latent potential. It's unrealized potential. And when you take money and you exchange it for a good or service, you are appreciating that thing with your money. So you give of the money and then you receive something, and that something is something you appreciate. So money is simply the latent potential to appreciate something and therefore receive it. And so what we're doing when we're imbuing a pledge into a smart contract or an NFT, we're tokenizing it, and we are now saying this is the new mechanism and means of exchange. And then what you have is you have a replacement for fiat currency. You have a replacement for currency that can act as a means of exchange. You can imbue a value into it, and you can utilize that as a new mechanism for exchange. So it's basically a way of bunny hopping a resource-based economy where, you know, there are lots of theories and ideas people have on having a resource-based economy where, you know, it's not about money moving around, it's about resources. But the challenge with resources is that value is in the eye of the beholder. You know, if I'm starving to death and, you know, I'm in the middle of the desert, starving to death, you know, dying of thirst, and someone drives up to me with a Lamborghini, and another person walks up to me holding a loaf of bread, I'm going to choose the loaf of bread over the Lamborghini. You know, if they're offering those as gifts, I'll go for the loaf of bread. So value is truly in the eye of the beholder. And so what this does is when the currency of pledging, don't worry about the technology of an NFT or tokenization just yet, but the beautiful thing about pledging is that you may have a perception of the value of your gifts that you're pledging, and so you pledge that, but the demand for that pledge is the self-regulating mechanism. So it is a form of economy in a way, because what it's enabling you to do is to pledge your gifts until you gain traction, and then create the ability for someone to appreciate those gifts through a donation. And so over time, you'll begin to understand how the market perceives the value of your gifts. You'll begin to understand who is most likely to value your gifts. You'll understand the nature of a specific kind of project that can benefit more from your gifts than it can from someone else's, and you'll begin to identify niches and things like this. And so it is a process of experimentation if you're not utilizing your gifts right now. But if you're a freelancer and you're already using some of these gifts, you'll have a fair idea of that already. So what you have in the scenario of technology where you're imbuing a pledge into a token, and that token is what's being traded, really, then you have a scenario where you've got a self-regulating economy that's based on supply and demand, and the value of your pledge, you're the one in control of it. You're the one determining whether you want to increase its perceived value up or down. And because it's donation based, because you're giving of your gifts freely, and you're saying, I believe that the gifts I'm offering are worth $1,000 a month, because it's obligation free, you're just gifting your gifts, and the appreciation of your gifts is actually what's determining the value. Then you're gaining an understanding of the true value of the potential of your gifts to be appreciated by the market. And so, the interesting thing about the nature of this kind of economy is it's not payment based, it's receiving based. So it's like if someone pledges an NFT that's imbued with a pledge, then when it's being pledged, you're actually choosing to receive it. You're not choosing to pay for it. And this is what's so profound about the potential of smart contracts and blockchain technology. And, it gives us the ability to operate in a formal marketplace that is purely based on the word. Your word is your bond, and it's purely entrustment based. And it's an environment that, the best way to describe it is ask and it is given. It's an economy, but purely based on asking. And when you think about that scenario, you've got the common approach to commerce right now, where this is what I'm prepared to give, and you're trying to convince people to that it's valuable. And you're not willing to use those gifts unless they give you something in return. And this really is the greatest barrier to human beings using their gifts to collaborate on projects that they're inspired by right now. So, pledging really is the future. And, a pledge is just an expression of intent. There's no, it is entirely obligation free, and everyone knows that, everyone understands that. And so, the fundamental principle of this form of gifting is whatever you're gifting or prepared to gift, it must be obligation free. You must be prepared to potentially receive nothing in return. If that gift is not appreciated, you have to be willing to accept that it is not, you are not gifting that so that you can receive, although that's the hope. But even if you're gifting some money to pay for, just because you're inspired by a project, even you may be lit up by a project and totally inspired by a project, and thinking to yourself, all I really want, I have a ton of money sitting in my bank and it's appreciating itself. It's just, my latent potential to back things and to be the impetus to drive things forward with my money. I've got a ton of it in the bank, but all I really want to do is to contribute to this. You have to be prepared to be able to, you have to be prepared to donate that money and for it not to be appreciated. Understanding that in all likelihood, the recipients, those who are receiving it, that money of that project, they're going to go out of their way to appreciate that donation, because I just know from my own experience the nature of the projects I've been involved with, and when there's been backing like that in such a selfless way, the appreciation just wells up. You can't help but want to express it. And in the projects I'm orchestrating right now, the collaborative gifting ones, anyone that's making a financial donation is just like another collaborator that we want to appreciate, and we want them to share in the success of the project that they've enabled with their donation. And ultimately, I'm slightly biased, obviously, because I conceived of this entire mechanism, but I want to appreciate the person who made that financial donation, because I want them to keep donating. I want them to keep donating to other projects, to spawn other projects that those people will appreciate. And, in my vision, in my mind, I'd see this just going like wildfire. Because all of us are really just hanging out to just give and share our gifts and be appreciated for them. What could be a better way of living your life than sharing your gifts and being appreciated for those gifts? I mean, that's the nature of a world I want to live in, and that's the future I can see we all have the potential to enjoy together, where we freely share our gifts and we just appreciate each other. And, I know for myself, things I appreciate are slightly different to other people as well. And, from my perspective, as someone whose most precious commodity is their time and their energy, people who can gift me back more time and energy are so immensely valuable to me. Even people like people who can look after my garden, and people who are willing to, clean my house. I have an appreciation for them that is beyond my appreciation for, someone who's really clever or smart, or someone who's really competent at creating or building or analyzing, like engineering. People who are willing to gift of themselves to care for people. I find that I have my greatest sense of appreciation is for people like that. And my hope is that in this new economy that we build together based on collaborative gifting, is I think the social status of people like that who are capable of gifting people their own time and energy back to them, so they can follow their passion, I think they'll be revered in this economy. I really do. I know I will revere those people, that's for sure. So, hopefully that makes sense. As usual, flick me an email if you've got any questions or if you want to collaborate. And I'll catch you on the next one. Cheers for now.